Well, I think most people have always kind of said, it's just unfortunate that Kyle Shanahan's quarterbacks always seem to get banged up. He probably would have a Super Bowl or two by now if they could just stay healthy. But some people have speculated maybe that's not totally coincidental. Maybe part of why his quarterbacks always seem to get hurt is because of Shanahan and not just flukiness. And I think a lot of it is stemming from this one particular play. As you see, it's going to be a tight end blocking Hassan Reddick, which, it's a play action. This is what most teams do when they run this play, but still, this is what's happening here. And as you see, Reddick is going to eventually get some pressure here. Now, still not an immediate pressure, but it happens to be right when Purdy is throwing. Purdy got injured, and he was out for the remainder of the game. For the most part, he came in to hand off, but that's essentially all he could do. So was this play Shanahan's fault? Well, no. In a vacuum, obviously, you're going to run this play sometimes. But does he too often run plays that get his quarterbacks injured? Well, let's get into it. So what you see on the screen right here, this is the average placement that his teams have had in terms of sacks given up, or sacks allowed, I guess I would say. So how many times does their quarterback get sacked? And this is where they've placed in that category. So first would mean your quarterback gets sacked the most in football. 31st, your quarterback gets sacked the least in football. And this is every year he's been the 49ers head coach, which is, the last couple years, they've actually been towards the bottom of the league in terms of sacks allowed. In 2022, Purdy and everyone involved, because there were 3 different quarterbacks, just did not get sacked that often. Only, 6th least in football. You have some other years where they were near bottom 10, 2021 and 2019. They finished 21st. You also have some years where they were top 10 or near top 10. 2020, they were 12th. 2018, 9th, and 2017, they were 10th. Meaning the average is right around league average, actually. 16.7 is their average placement in terms of sacks given up. So you don't necessarily look at this and say, yeah, he gives, his quarterbacks take a beating necessarily. Again, I don't know if there's official quarterback hits stats out there for in terms of teams given up, so maybe that would be a better stat, but I don't see it. But another thing that's worth noting is a lot of people will say sacks at their core are quarterback stats. While there's obviously other factors, offensive line, play calling, and wide receiver play all do factor into sacks, the number one predictor of if you'll get sacked a lot is if you've gotten sacked a lot. The quarterback itself is the number one predictor, and that's why people say quarterbacks, or that's why people say sacks are a quarterback stat first and foremost, although there's plenty of factors that come in. So does this totally justify and say that, Kyle Shanahan does not hurt his quarterbacks? No, but it's at least an argument in the favor that he does not cause his quarterbacks to get hurt. Another chart I looked at, and fair warning, this could be a little bit off. I could not find exact stats on this, so I went through it myself, but it's possible I missed one or two in either of these categories. But the thing you see at the top is how many quarterbacks got injured of any kind last season. An injury that took them out of the game at any point, whether it was for a couple of plays or whether it was for the entire season. 22 injuries in 32 teams, which would mean that the average team got a quarterback injury 0.69 times a year. Whereas for Shanahan, he's had 9 of those injuries in 11 seasons, which is a little higher, right? It's 0.82, so it is, there's a jump there. However, it's actually not as massive of a jump as you might expect. I think a lot of people would have expected a higher jump there, and I think, again, when you factor in the fact that, for one thing, I'm talking about his entire time as an offensive coordinator, not just him as a head coach. So we're including when he was the offensive coordinator for the Washington Redskins when they had RG3, who, was sort of known for getting injured a lot. You also have Garoppolo, who's become known for getting injured a lot. Do they get injured because Shanahan doesn't protect them, or does Shanahan protect them fine, but they're just injury-prone guys? It's hard to say. At the end of the day, I really don't think it's fair to blame Shanahan for the injuries that the quarterbacks have. I just don't. I think that when you play football, there's a chance you could get injured. And while it's possible that his play calling results in some of this stuff, again, maybe it's not necessarily the amount of sacks that they take, but maybe the quality of sacks or the damage that happens on some of these sacks, potentially. I guess when you run a play action, you are maybe a bit more likely to get blindsided like that, and they've run a ton of play actions. So, okay, I could see the logic behind it, but I don't see enough evidence for me to jump to that conclusion just yet. I just don't. while there is a little bit of evidence in that way, there's also evidence to support the contrary, that he does not cause his quarterbacks to get hurt. So my main guess would be that it's fluky and just, it's happenstance and unfortunate luck for Shanahan. But that's what I think. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from y'all. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.